All right, well, welcome back to the infamous amateur podcast, as we're now calling it today, with my friend Niyaz Pirani and Chef Zach over here, the man, the myth, the legend, the dude with the best haircut here.
Do you have a topic for segment 2, or else I have a question for you?
Go ahead. This is what's the question. What's up?
Where are some of your favorite places to eat in Orange County?
What he's saying is, what do you like to put in your mouth?
Yeah. What do you like to put in your mouth? That's what
that's a lot longer of an answer.
About 3.5 inches longer. Mousseline. It's a half a mousseline longer.
Hey.
Yeah.
No, I would say, locally, right here, Fuoco, badass pizza.
It's Fullerton.
Yep. Yeah. I don't eat out a whole lot.
The problem is when you're asking people that work nights and weekends where you like to go to eat, they're going to tell you good lunch spots. Because the problem is we don't get to go out with the real world.
Hey, I mean, if it's a good lunch spot, it's a good lunch spot.
But you see what I mean, though, right? Like people are always like, "Hey, man, what do you do on your day off?" I'm like, "Sleep, bro." Like, where do you cook? Yeah, what do you do at home? Nothing, bro.
No,
like,
don't cook at home at all.
Yeah, there's no.
That's like every chef I know.
You can't, dude. Well, think about it. This business, and I was just listening to we'll get back to it, but I was just listening to David Chain talk about how basically this business, in the end of it, you end up with a hurt body, nothing in your bank account. You don't know what the rest of the world looks like because all you've done is create your own world for 20, 30 years. When you finally get out there, you realize, I was a fucking nut job. I was the crazy, like I think that we don't get out at all. And so when you're in the free world, which I'm calling it, you get out there and you're like, wow, check this out. You see that, what impact you either had or didn't have, and really there's...
Or how socially awkward you actually are.
You're like you're the recluse, man. You're like the guy out there going, hey, man, I'll have the burger and...
Yeah, what do you think of the political climate right now?
Yeah.
What?
I'm like, I don't know. I'm bummed about it.
Medium rare?
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. How do you answer this?
Yeah, it's not. It's a very the industry itself. I as we get older and have kids, or as I get older and have kids.
Yeah.
You two aren't there yet, but well, you're definitely getting older. You're welcome. But you have kids, and you start thinking like my I just went to my daughter's daddy-daughter dance, and everybody's like, "Hey, chef, la la la," and I'm like, "This is crazy, man. Like, I don't know any of these kids, right? Like, I don't do anything with kids. Like, what am I thinking, right? This is wild." And yet here we are in a society where that's, somehow we're out there, right? And we're doing things, but we're not really out there, and we don't really get out there until we're done, I guess, right? I mean, that's.
You're saying, like, as a chef, for 20 or 30 years, you kind of get lost in this world, and then you emerge on the other side. I would say that the hope is that within that time frame, it's all about positioning, right? 100%. At first, you're going to figure out what you want to do in the kitchen. At some point, you're going to realize your vision either with people that are going to help you get there, or if you're going to figure out a way to do it on your own, if that's the path you're going to take, which I think both of you guys have been able to do.
Well, you can't do it on your own. That's the hard part, is we have to, with what we're doing, we would never afford to do this on our own.
Well, but you know what I mean, being able to pioneer your own ideas. There's a lot of people that might only just be a sous chef forever. It takes that extra step. That's where the courage, that leap of faith has to come through. But then I think you get to some point, hopefully at the end when you emerge, you have to figure out, especially in today's world, we were talking about social media beforehand. You have to be a social media-ist /chef / cookbook author / video guy / podcaster. Hopefully at the end of this new economy communication stream, when you guys emerge from it, you'll have something not just from your years in the kitchen to show for it. That's probably the positioning
and I think I don't know if that's a pipe dream or reality yet. We
don't
know
make it your reality,
well,
right?
What I'm saying is monetizing it. Like we can go out and be those things all day long, but monetizing it has to come from something else. And with food, we know how to monetize it. We know how to sell it. We don't know how, God forbid, word of mouth helps us or whatever. I mean, people like you that help us get the word out there, but really all we can control is what we can monetize, which is the food, make sure our costs are right, make sure we're not over labor, make sure we're not overthinking, and then artistic value is what we have to stand for behind it. In the end, podcasts and even
everything
cookbooks.
Else is all,
it's all fluff.
Supplemental, yeah.
Yeah, it's all fluff, man. And at the end of that, what if all you do all that and it doesn't monetize? Really, in the end, what you're left with is either you were supported by the right people or luck and you showed up at the right time at the right place, which is a lot of it, right? I mean, you being you is awesome. If nobody shows up, you being you is awesome to you. And you could be the same person you are and nobody could show up, or you can be the same person and everybody that can help you shows up.
Yeah,
and a lot of that has to do with luck and cooking at the right place and being on or being exposed, or letting your guard down all the time so that you can be let people into your world, and accepting kind of the failures and successes of that. In the end, that doesn't mean it's going to be monetized. So when I think when the world comes crashing down on the food industry, who knows when that's going to happen with labor laws and how much we're going to have to cut out with minimum wage, or how much art can we put into that without that dish costing $900, right? And
how do you guys maneuver within that?
Well, I can only answer for me. To be honest with you, I try not to think about it. I make sure the margins are right. And if people aren't coming through the door, you can only fluctuate so much to pay for it. Your food has to have a certain amount of prep level to be unique, but yet has to be approachable on the other side so you're not killing labor so people come in the door. And I think every concept's different. I mean, I bet there you have 2 different ones at each restaurant, right? How you have to monetize it.
Yeah, it's like in Citizen Kitchen, what we end up doing is the prep is really not that bad.
Right.
House-made pasta, a couple sauces, polenta, simple stuff. It's how we season it, and that's where, if you were to look at our spice room, I have 45 different spices that we can throw together and make, Ras El Hanout, Berbere spice, all these different crazy names, and that really helps CK be more diverse. With Journeymans, we expand the amount of techniques that we use, but they're all still relatively basic. We're making mousse and we're poaching things, and we're just adding an extra component of color or texture, and at that point it's hard to figure out because we don't have a huge menu, so it's easier to do more within it.
Exactly. And that's where I think people get confused, is that in order to do fine dining or more, you have to have a more concentrated idea on train of thought. So you have to be able to
focused.
I'm doing this now and I can't do 10 things. It's like most spots that I've worked where I've had to do tweezers and those sort of things back in the day, which are truthful. But
Every time he says tweezers, he points at you.
Well, that's
how I get my eyebrows this way.
And every time he says Hulk smash, he'll point at me. It's the same thing. It's all good. I'll take it. But that sort of deal, I only had four dishes on my station when I was cooking at those places. Yeah. Here I'm running 8 or 9 items off a station, but they're a la carte and they're higher. The cost margin on them is higher. Steakhouse, believe it or not, I didn't set out to be a steakhouse. However, that's what we're going towards, and I enjoy the hell out of it. But man, the margins are hard. Steaks are expensive, right? You're dealing with a product that costs a lot of money, where when you're making a mousseline out of chicken tenders and those sort of things, it's the technique and it's the labor that costs you money. Right. The product cost is not so much.
Well, and when you're able to do those things,
the knowledge is the hard part.
Right. You can pick, cost ingredients that are less costly and use technique to really make them shine.
But either way, it's going to cost you money, is what I'm saying.
To make the money
now,
too.
That's
your
true.
labor right now is the 2 most expensive things in your restaurant: the guy that's not doing anything in the back of the kitchen and an empty seat. Your real estate right now is super high, and your labor is crazy out of control. And it's not because it's just how the world is going.
Progressing, yeah.
There's also a lot of restaurants. Like I was reading in the Orange County Register, and they said that there's almost 10,000 restaurants in Orange County. That's a lot, man. And considering that most people only eat within a 5-mile radius of their house most of the time, unless they're
Well, that's what we're hoping to break, right? I mean, that's really the goal, is to get people to travel.
You have to get through that noise, yeah.
You have to.
Orange County's not that big either, but I feel like people who live in South County are like, North County is so far.
Right. It's the added, the feeling of time consumption, sitting in traffic. And
the traffic actually wears on you.
It kind of it wears you out a little bit, even though it's, X amount of miles or a 20-minute drive. Right. If you're driving side streets and you drive 20 minutes, it doesn't seem that bad because you're constantly moving. Yeah. If you're sitting in traffic, it's like, oh, it's been 20 minutes and I've moved, X amount of miles. You're just
Californians just straight aren't used to it. We want things now, we want things here. West Coast is very much like that. You go to the East Coast, you pretty much got to get on a train, or you got to get on a metro, or you got to do something and wait to get something, and you're waiting everywhere because that's just how it goes. Yeah. California's not like that. People are like, oh, my reservations right now, why aren't I seated?
Why am I waiting?
Yeah, why am I waiting? Why do I have to have a drink at the bar first? And you're like, have a drink at the bar, bro. We're not punishing you, right? We're inviting you to come sit at the bar for a minute, right? And I think that's part of the mentality. I was going to ask you, Matt. It was so interesting. I was reading this article today about Fort Worth and Dallas restaurants, and now Texas is a bit behind it. That they're still steak and potatoes very much, but they got some great chefs out there doing some cool stuff. And all of them, Dallas for a while went into this huge push, and I got some friends that graduate with me that are out there. They went into this huge push of kind of what we're doing now in their style, where every chef wanted to go big. So every restaurant out there was like plush, oil money plush, right? Like top to the nines, everything's class. Like they were doing it huge. And all those guys, out of the 10 or 15 that I know of, 8 of them this year are opening restaurants that are casual as their like new project of what they want to do. And I thought it was very unique that they went from, I mean, I'm telling you, like what we're talking about, being everything. They wanted to go all out, big ingredients, big plating, big technique, to now really going, you know, I really want couches in my lounge. I really want and not high end. They want to go straight approachable.
Right.
Fast casual even.
I mean, they want it to be dining, but really they're looking at like a gastropub without hipster. Like we don't want any of that. We're not going to go cliche.
What is that?
You got to check it out.
If a tree falls in the forest and nobody hears it.
But you know, I think what they're saying is like they really want to go back to doing like ratatouilles, and they want like cassoulets and dishes that are like, they're going back to cast irons and things that are dead. And to me, it was a unique measurement from where we stand, being that they're technically behind us culinarily, right? Just their audience, not the chefs, but their audience. Right. But here they are already going back in time before we are.
Does a menu like that feel hipster to you?
Depends on how you push it.
Yeah, I mean,
you know what I mean? Like, depends on how you push it.
I think the connotation or hipster falls into menu structure is cliche for the sake of being cliche, and trendy. You know, a lot of chefs, you know, speaking for myself, I don't like to follow trends. I like to cook what I think is delicious and what's in season. And unfortunately, like, seasonality has become cliche. You know, but I was just reading.
Farm to table, all of a sudden, like, that's hipster. You're like, well,
I don't even say we're farm to table, because we're not. I would be lying if I said that. You know, I try to cook good food that happens to be in season. And sometimes, I mean, nowadays with the methods of preservation, the types of refrigeration, the transportation styles, I mean, I just read an article and it said, what is seasonality? Especially in California.
It's almost irrelevant now.
Yeah, you know, you can get any ingredient in almost any season, especially here, I mean, when it's sunny 300 some odd days of the year, with the greenhouses and the farmers doing stuff all year long, and aquaponics now. I mean, God, you can get whatever you want. So now it's really about, does the ingredient fucking taste good? Like, naturally.
And do you want to use it?
Yeah, and do you want to use it?
Do you like it? Right?
Yeah, and then it stems from there. You know, so it's hard, that hipster mentality is Cheetos on everything.
Yeah, that I'm done with. Yeah,
you know,
too.
like,
I mean, I get it.
Some of it's cool, but.
Well, and the Instagram food bugs me a little bit. I know why people do it. And I've done it. We did it for that video, and I had a great time, right? And it actually tasted good. There's no way we could eat, between 4 of us, could even eat that thing. But truthfully, it was like, no, he missed out on it. But the principle of, I remember being at Hopscotch, and when we put on like pig ears and I didn't know what the word hipster meant. Like, I never heard it. I didn't know what it was. I was just cooking every day, and we were moving all around. And in the newspaper, it was like, you know, the number 1 hipster makes whatever. There's a picture of my ass on there. And I had to ask somebody, right? Like, I'm an old bastard with a kid. Like, what are you guys talking about? Like, and apparently the pig ears and balls and everything was what they were claiming. I just said thank you, because I was like, whatever, you put me in the paper, like, I appreciate you, come eat the balls. I don't give a rat's ass.
Yeah, but at that point, that happened to be trendy, like when you were doing it.
Yeah, and I had no clue, right? So the term to me has always been kind of lost. It's like, I guess if you wear like a suit coat and flip-flops, you're a hipster.
And we should actually ask, though, that the culture hasn't like moved past the word hipster. There's not like a new word for this that's replaced it, is there?
I don't even know if it, but here's the thing is, everything, I think everybody tried to fit in that category, meaning that like, if you just did something a little off all of a sudden,
you're a hipster.
You're a hipster. And I'm like, I don't even know what the hell, like, I don't get that.
Hipster became like partially a negative connotation to people who are more conservative, looking at people who are being more of themselves, where they weren't, you know, conforming to societal standards. Hipsters are those people that do whatever the hell they want.
Well, they just don't give a fuck, right?
Yeah.
And I always, I mean, that's how I made menus. Oh, I don't like that sort of thing. I don't give a fuck. Like, cool, then don't eat it.
Order something else.
Yeah, and I guess that's how, I don't know. I mean, that's in that same light, right? Like, how do you, the classifications of it became this weird thing. But I just thought it was so unique that these guys that are losing their coats, are going back to like collared shirts and aprons, and they want to cook like cool burgers, and they want to do sandwiches, and they want to do like kind of off the wall stuff that's lower price point, and it's like a movement right now in the Dallas Fort Worth area. That here, I don't know, here's kind of been a mismatch to me for a while, because fast casual, you can get really good quality in California fast casual food.
Right.
I think Orange County actually is doing both things at once, right? So like you have people like Andy Wynn, the owner of After's Ice Cream, who they just announced that his group, Michael Pham was the chef at Anchor Hitch. They do Red Envelope together. And now so like Andy, Michael, and their whole group, they're opening up a food hall that's going to have a barber shop in it and all these other cool little things, like a one-stop kind of shop. You have things that are happening. You have prefix on that end. Amar is opening some kind of a global
food hall,
right?
yeah. Which
So
is gonna be awesome,
actually,
man.
isn't it called Global Food Hall?
I have no idea,
so.
but I know
I
think that's a label for it. Maybe I just read it with one eye and it was both.
But I think that's actually what's happening in Orange County, and you have to see that and actually take one step back. Like the New York Times just recently sent over a California food critic, a Los Angeles food critic, and they say that like the LA food scene, the California food scene is more popular now than the New York food scene. So if you look at Orange County as a microcosm of that's the direction we're going to go. You have people who were doing fine dining who are like, fuck this, I'm rebelling, and they're going to go to that nicer side. And then you're going to have people who are tired of it, who are like, well, I want to cook again, like the dude from Mess Hall Kitchen, right? Jake. That dude can plate like pretty good fine dining type stuff. And if you see, he runs a food truck, but in the evenings, he'll do a lot of fundraisers and things like he'll win Ducks and Tucks and like really represent with fine dining type stuff. I think you'll see that shift where the people who were doing one thing might switch to the other thing just out of boredom.
Well, yeah, and I think that you just want to diversify yourself, right? Like, man, I'm down fried chicken place all day long, right? If I could, you know. The truth is that's a different clientele than what I'm going to bring into this spot, right? So I don't have one style of food I like, right? Like, if I was given the opportunity to do a dope sandwich shop with 6 seats, I would do it. Why not? Right? Why not push the envelope there and try to branch into something else? But that's not what's happening everywhere, right? I mean, you don't get opportunities as a chef to do one or two things. I mean, obviously when you get to a level like the Amars and things that have the funding and all that stuff, and he's, you know, you'll get a chance to do a food hall. But for us right now, we're fighting this battle, right? For us to do 2 or 3 things is pretty out there. But to give up this, to go back to casual, that's a whole nother mindset.
Yeah, it is.
Do you see what I mean? Like, it's not like now you're like, okay, these guys made it to what we're doing now, and they went, you know what? Yeah.
I think they're just like letting it go. I don't know if I would say giving it up.
Well,
they succeeded, and they were like, okay,
yeah.
This is cool for a little bit, but now I just, you know, where at a certain point when you get to that level, I mean, what do you lose? You don't cook anymore, and I mean that's originally why we all started doing what we do. And then once you get popular enough or you get big enough, you don't cook anymore. Let's be honest. How often do you think I really cook having 2 restaurants? I walk around and I point at things in the kitchen and I taste stuff, and obviously like my guys know generally what I want.
You're more of a teacher.
Right, you know, and those are Sunday. Yeah, Sunday nights are like some of my favorite nights because I have one cook on the line. It's just Citizen Kitchen, and we have to cook. I have to be there with him, reading the tickets and expediting and sautéing and grilling. And you know, when you have a little bit of that, and then you look forward to, you know, leading the 2 restaurants on a busy Saturday night, I mean, you do miss it a little bit because you being what everybody thinks a chef is a little bit different, where it's paperwork, leadership.
Well, yeah, Food Network helped and hurt. Let me be honest with you for a minute, right? Yeah. I love that. Everybody's like, oh, I want to be a chef. You stand up there, you go on TV shows, you do X, Y, and Z, and you're like, bro.
Not even close.
None of that's even the case, dude.
Yeah.
None of that's even the case, man. And then on top of that, nobody talks about the massive, what it actually is to be in the public eye now because of everything. I mean, you get every walk of life has something to say, and in the position of the restaurant, you just kind of got to smile, and you either hold your ground, or you kiss their ass, or you tell them to fuck off. There's really, I mean, is there any more options, right? I mean,
really.
My favorite
every
word
chef
when
takes
somebody
one.
does that. Oh, chef, have you ever tried to? Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I never thought about that.
Yeah, that's a nice idea.
Couldn't the response be, well, I'll definitely check that technique when I go to your restaurant and try the dish, right?
Well, I mean, not everybody's got it. That's kind of like
I mean, but that's
That would be the fuck off.
that's it. You know, those
We'll
are
call
hard.
it the Jason Quinn. I love you, man.
No, it's hard when people do that because, I mean, Marco Pierre White says, he's like, who are these people that haven't done what I've done, work in the way that I've worked,
Well,
come in and
he was
critique,
the first one to fucking...
Yeah, to like critique my restaurant and say, you know, well, I love it. He says, I don't go to your house and comment about your couch and the way that you cook and all this. So why do you come into my restaurant and feel that you can do the same thing? I mean, we're not Marco Pierre White, but it's still kind of like that idea of, dude, you weren't here for 16 hours, you know, 4 days in a row, and your wife's asleep at home, and then it's gone by the time you wake up, and you don't go through all that shit. So why are you being that way? I mean, then the other side is we're in restaurants to cook for people. We're not obviously cooking for ourselves. So it's like you have to find that balance where it's like
that's the hard trick, man. Is where does being a chef versus being a servant, right? You know, like I mean, literally,
host.
like yeah, like,
host.
you know, like where does it? You know, at what point do you do what they want versus what you want, and how does that balance? And how do you hold your head up? And there's different. I mean, there's a lot of chefs out there in the world that work for the big corporations. That's what they want to do. They want to just cook food that people like and move on. And there's nothing wrong with it.
And they like the consistency and the structure. And then there are chefs that don't thrive in that because it's not a creative medium. You're putting boundaries and restrictions on things when some of us feel like starving artists, and we just want to create. We just want to go and do and see what happens.
There is something to be said about the consistency and structure. There's also a lot to be said about freedom.
Well, having consistency in your food always meet a standard needs to be talked about instead of consistency in the same product.
Yeah.
So
they
this
say that in
restaurant-
the movie Burnt.
I think
Right.
you mean
He says that
consistency in the
super
lifestyle,
eloquently.
though,
Exactly.
correct?
And it's like, look, man, I get it. You want the same stuff all the time. That's not what we're here for. We're here is to hold a bar and keep that bar. Whatever goes in it, we're going to make sure we hit that bar or go above it.
Right.
But I think that's the consistency that in the public eye is not talked about. Like, oh, I love that dish. Where did it go? We got tired of cooking it, man. I was talking to Chef Ross, and he's, you know, he was in here the other night, and I was like, man, how's it going over there? He's like, well, you know, people want me to keep these around and do things around, and you know, I keep changing stuff up. And I was like, welcome to the dude. Isn't that what we get paid for?
Speaking of Jason Quinn,
So,
when he took off the Brussels sprout Caesar salad that he has on his menu, which is
That
so
was delicious. That
Yeah.
was awesome.
And I
dish.
remember the first time I went there and it wasn't on the menu, and I'm like, why would you do that? I was like actually upset. I'm upset talking about it right now.
but that's part of what makes
It's
like,
back, though.
But you talking
Go
about
now.
it is what we live for. So somebody, like I used to at Hopscotch all the time when we were changing the menu all the time, I would take the top seller off and then the bottom third of the menu. That was the strategic move. People would be like, why would you do it? Why would you do it? It's the top seller. I'm like, well, because you went and told your friends, right? So now what's the top seller? So then you do it again, and then when I bring it back in 6 months, then what? Like you're creating a vortex of like, cool, you're mad at me. I got tired of it, right? We made it so much, I had to get rid of it.
That's what
Well, they
Thomas
say
Keller
like,
says, right?
the law of diminishing returns.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He says that it's like, I say this all the time now. It's like he serves 2 bites, and the third bite is the one that's not there, right? It's the one that you wanted.
one-
If I
yep.
gave you that third bite, the dish wouldn't be the same dish.
Yeah.
Totally.
100%. And that's the hard thing to sell the public on right now, is everybody thinks that like, I mean, I hate to say it, but the big guys have kind of buried the artwork, right? California right now we're lucky enough that people still follow chefs, I think, right now. New York does it, California's starting to do it, but like you look at the Dallas scene, they talk about the restaurant. They're not talking about the chefs, they're not talking about the art, they're talking about what that restaurant is. And that may be why those guys are doing something else. Is
Trying
because
to make their name and say, hey, this
maybe.
is what I represent.
Maybe.
From like a PR perspective, that just seems like a lack of good storytellers in the area. Like
Maybe.
Could be.
you can build
Maybe.
interest
Yeah, really
in
could be.
you can build interest in the person because everybody has a unique story to tell, no matter what. And especially with the chef, if they're putting things on the plate, that shit is personal to them. Wouldn't you want to know if you're putting that bite in your mouth? You want to know what perspective that came from, especially if they're coming to a restaurant where it's a prefix like yours, or if they're willing to put balls in their mouth for you. Like,
but I think we created that nonsense versus where out there, It's not. It
could
doesn't
be-
exist right now.
It could be restaurateur driven,
Yeah,
where they just hired the
exactly.
chef,
Exactly.
and it's the restaurant that they wanted to open, and they just had a chef make the food that they wanted.
Well, look at the
So that's
consortium
why I
group.
love our scene right now.
Yeah, well, look at the consortium group in San Diego. They're doing some of the coolest stuff around. I couldn't tell you who their chef is. All their food's good. All their concepts are bomb. All their ideas and social, they're crushing San Diego and changing the food scene. I know Brian Malarkey down there, but I don't know, of course, we never get out in public. But,
Sure.
but I'm just saying, I don't know of that's the same thing. That is a concept restaurateur driven by a guy who's a genius. I don't know who their chef is. That's San Diego.
And do they even need a specific chef? I mean, if they have the consistency in the recipes and everything, and they can kind of teach it to whoever, with the type of equipment we have nowadays, it's a lot easier. I mean, sous vide, combi ovens.
Dude, cheat 101, bro.
Yeah, consistency in food has become a lot
It's like auto-tune
easier
in
to
music.
attain.
Yeah, cheaters. Cheaters. That's all right. Cheating's how you get consistency. That combi oven saves my life.
Is it cheating?
No, it's just
know
it's
what I
being
mean?
smart
It's
in the long run.
right,
It's
yeah.
called getting older and going, you know what, bro? Put the thermometer in it. When it gets to the right, I used to be like, no, I can do it without. No, it's like, bro, the margin of error on a thermometer is much less.
It's so true.
And me teaching you that means you could do other things in that time instead of staring at that steak. Dude.
Yep.
And so no, it's getting smarter. But the follow the restaurant thing and follow the chef thing is two different atmospheres. I don't know if the public gets that. Do you think the public understands? Here's the
think it
restaurant
matters
group,
to the public,
and then
man.
here's I don't. Well,
I think
You have
I
a
don't know.
separation
I don't
of
know.
the dining clientele as well. The people who don't really give a fuck what you think about food. They just want to go and eat.
right. That's what I mean.
Right.
They don't even have the time. I mean, maybe the busy parents who have a couple kids who have after-school specials and all these different things, they don't really have the time always to worry about what the chef's whipping up today.
Right. But isn't that why Andy Richter did Pok Pok, right? I mean, you have all these fine dining spots and you open something that you know is consistent, you do whatever, and then you open it up. And same with David Chang, right? I mean, he's got his Momofugo, and then he's got his, Major Dromo here, and then now he's got all these little concepts that are consistent. Well, now you hit all these bases that now his name, of course, is going to carry him. But really what they're doing is being specific in what they do, and it's fast, it's casual, it's perfect and it's not. I mean,
maybe that's the answer to what we need. He's showing that by being that kind of chef, that we still can be consistency driven,
right,
in what kind of atmosphere, like Fridays. If you go to Fridays here and you go to one in New York and you go to one here and all these different ones, they're all going to be relatively the same. You know what to expect.
Right.
I mean, maybe that's what he's doing for us, is saying, look, you can trust these guys. You can trust the chef and know that you're going to get consistency instead of having to worry about it being a bigger concept.
No idea. I tell you what, all I do is look forward to the next thing that comes, man. And in this business with restaurants, the good thing about food is everybody eats, and everybody goes out, and everybody's either going to like it or not like it. And that's the only consistency thing we have is change, right? So, given that, man, anything you guys want to add, Chef, where they find you online?
Yeah, at Journeymans Fullerton, Chef Geerson, Journeymans Food and Drink, Citizen Kitchen. I mean, Google
That's a
it.
mouthful.
Yeah, just Google it.
Google it, bro.
Yeah.
And thanks for coming on, man. I'm glad we got to talk a little bit more about food this time. Last time we
Yeah.
kind of just shot the shit and wore ugly sweaters.
Yeah, still not a bad time.
Not a bad time, bro. And then Mr. Niyaz, where they find you at, brother?
You can find me online at Knife Spork PR. Give me a follow on Instagram. I'd appreciate it. Or at I Know But Podcast.
Yeah, check out his podcast as well. Great stuff going on. You always have great guests.
Thank you. I'll get you on
always
this
a good
soon.
time. Yeah, man, I'll come chat it up, dude. You know how it goes.
Talk about your European clown days.
Yeah, I will absolutely talk about clowning.
Did you know about that?
I have no idea.
Ooh.
Yeah, bro. I was a European clown.
That's it, though. You can't talk about it.
True story.
Till next time.
Yeah, right? Follow us, guys, at Chef Cody Storts, Instagram, at the Cody Storts Podcast on all kinds of platforms. We are on iHeartRadio now. Like, follow, comment. We're also going to be starting doing Cody's Bag of Tricks soon, so keep it up. Culinary Bag of Tricks, where we're going to give you everything that I ever cooked that you want to know. You guys just, like I said, bag, right?
No, we thought it was a
clown reference.
Good. Now it's going to go down that way. But follow us on that. We're going to teach you guys all the home stuff we do at the restaurant. I have a lot of people hitting me up about how to make easy things, guys, that we'll teach you at home. Aiolis.
Toast.
Toast, dude. Honestly, that's the dorkiest thing I ever heard in my entire life. But We'll give it to you. But all the light stuff, and I'm gonna get other guys involved in this because I got a lot of hum cooks that are basically asking me, how do you make a gremolata? And why doesn't it work in my food processor? It's like, because you got to learn how to use a knife.
Actually, I need to know that.
So that's what we're going to be doing. So keep an eye out. Follow us on that. Instagram TV is going to be up. Facebook Live. Love you guys. Peace.